everyone listening, welcome to the Daycast. My name is Hayden Wilson, and on today's show, we have a close friend, mentor, and ultimate super coach that helps me get my shit in check. Tanya Cross, master DeMartini facilitator, and more mindset extraordinaire expert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hayden.
What do you? Let's crack off straight with that. What do you think of the word expert? What does that mean to you?
Well, I believe everyone has an expertise in some area. They've spent time, energy, money in researching, studying, learning about a particular topic. So I believe everyone innately has an expertise inside of them, something that really helps to light them up and they feel energized and inspired, whether it be about food or it be about training or business or even travel and the places that they've been. There's a energy that runs through these, the individual when they're speaking about this particular topic, and they have a lot of expertise and wisdom and knowledge in this particular topic.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So for those who don't know you, which is a good starting point considering for many years you've been playing sort of behind the scenes and working and helping everyone else grow their businesses and grow what they're doing, and now you're like, dude, it's time for me to fucking shine. Who are you? What have you done? Where have you come from? And what's the main focus now?
Yeah, sure. So Tanya Cross, that's who I am. I started my career as a nurse and realized it was in 2005 when I realized that nursing for me was more of a band-aid to help someone through their challenges that they were going through, and that it was really the inner world that if you shift that, the outer world and their physiology would shift as a result. So I found myself studying counseling and wanting to have a really great grasp of understanding about the self. It's something that has interested me personally. And I also had found that people had been attracted to have conversations with me just on a personal level, and they would share things with me that they wouldn't normally share with other people. Mm-hmm. So I found I was attracting those type of people in my life anyway. So as I was doing my study, it's really interesting when you set the intention of something that you want to work on, you want to complete a goal that you would love to have, that sometimes the universe or whatever you want to call it sends you into catapulting into the direction to fast track that. And so in 2009, my boyfriend at the time was killed in a motorbike accident. The result of that was experiencing grief for the very first time and my world shattering. Mm-hmm. Well, the fortunate part of that was that my younger sister happened to be studying under a man named Dr. John DeMartini at the time. Mm-hmm. And one of her flatmate had said to me, you have to come along to the breakthrough experience. You have to make your way there. And I found myself at the breakthrough experience for the very first time, learning from Dr. DeMartini, and he has a particular process about teaching people about themselves and how to master their life. And one of the aspects is also how to master your life through when you experience grief. And I was one of the individuals out of 210 people in this room getting selected to work with Dr. DeMartini to dissolve my grief. Now, I was in the middle of my degree at the time, or actually I was at the very end of my degree at the time, studying crisis counseling, thinking that for grief I was going to be in grief for a 2 to 5 year period. And here this man has helped transform my grief so I could have gratitude and love for my boyfriend's life and his death, and to be really grateful for that experience. So to be able to have that and to have my life completely change in an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, I realized this is what I wanted to dedicate my career and my life to, is mastering this, because I saw how much it transformed my own life. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do for others as well, because there was a system and a process, a series of questions that you could ask someone to really help them to shift their perspective, to be able to empower their life, that they didn't have to be a victim of whatever was going on in their life. They could master their life by just looking at their life from a different perspective. So that's how I started my journey in learning from Dr. Demartini, and then and becoming master certified in his methodology, and then being able to empower others' lives as a result of this work.
So it started off with you wanting to, or you being able to have gratitude for your boyfriend's death and life. And then you've had different focuses and different areas that you wanted to specialize in across those 11 years. But now you're also studying psychology, and you've done counseling, and you've done DMAT, like a lot of mindset type, but actual mindset type stuff. What do you think is the psychology piece? Where does that come in, and why was it a desire for you to upskill with that particular, like, professionally in that area?
So I've got my degree in counseling, and then I've studied a lot through Demartini, and then I've specialized in different topics and different areas of life. And then I realized I love learning. And I also know that in psychology, there is still a shift, or there's still an influence of positive psychology in the field. And I know that balanced psychology or whole thinking is extremely powerful, and positive psychology really sets people up for having fantasies about how they want their life to be, and actually causing them more depression because of it. So because the more that we look up and we want something to be all good, no bad, we actually aren't resilient to when it's challenging. We also blind to the downside as well. And so I feel that part of my purpose and mission is also to be able to help people and psychologists and the field to be able to have more of a whole thinking mindset, and for that to be something that psychologists and counselors are taught as a way, as a methodology to use with their clients, rather than positive psychology. So that's why. And I just love learning. Like I love learning. So it's just another aspect, and it helps me master my craft better.
What do you think are, because obviously, like, you know, in 1985 and sort of onwards from then until 2000 and whatever, like there's a huge shift into positive psychology and positive thinking, and, you know, all good and the stuff we're just talking about. Do you think, and what do you believe are the trends going to be moving forward? Are you at the pioneering stage of a holistic type psychology model? Is that already in development? Like, what do you think it's like?
Holistic. There's definitely holistic type psychology, and we are definitely moving to it, because people are starting to see that, and even the people who are creating positive psychology, they know they're not positive all the time. And it's really unrealistic to think that you are. And they're also discovering, which they have for the last, number of years anyway, where with post-traumatic stress, they also are seeing that there's also post-traumatic growth inside of something that was stressful. Oh, wow. So it's just, and so it's just being able to now bring those together and create more of a model that helps people be able to see that there's every stressful situation, there also is a growth aspect to it as well. So I think over time we're going to become and see more of those models and more balanced models coming into light.
What has been one of the, like, we talk about highest values and you love learning, has there been a point where you've had a value and or an injected value that you thought was your value, and then you like almost woke up to yourself, you did the values determination process or whatever system you used to get, and you're just like, shit, I actually don't value that anymore, or I thought that was it, but it wasn't. And then you had like a major shift?
Yeah, of course. So I have health as a value throughout my life. When I was in my 20s, I didn't know about values. We all live our life through a set of priorities of how we make our decisions in our life based upon what's important. And some may value business, others may value relationship or health, or whatever it is. So in my early 20s, I decided for a little period of time that I would stop nursing, and then I went into becoming a personal trainer, because I thought I really enjoyed the physical movement, and I enjoyed training myself, and I studied this. My partner at the time was also a personal trainer, so that might have been somewhat of an influence in my decision in that particular study as well. So what I noticed is that when I started to go to work and I started to work with clients and do training, I liked, and what lit me up most was when I was speaking to them and asking them about what was going on inside of themselves, how they were going with their food, you know, what we could do to clear the battle that they're having with trying to eat pleasurable food and things like that. But the actual training itself, I didn't jump out of bed, or I wasn't energized to want to go and do that. It wasn't something I love doing. And so I did find out. And then what happens is, after a period of time, you find yourself being constricted, or you lose your job, or whatever it was at that time. For me, my boyfriend and I separated. And so that helped me to free myself from staying in that industry and actually going and doing something, which I then went and studied counseling to shift that. So sometimes if we set ourselves up and we go, you know what, I want to do something different and this isn't really me, we'll either gradually change to do it, or we'll have a cataclysmic change that happens that pushes and forces us to do, which I know for a lot of people who've been living according to someone else's values, or what they think their parents or society should be doing for them. I know that this last few months for a lot of people have helped to really free them from contracts or jobs that they haven't really loved doing, and then they get to go and do what they'd love to be doing instead.
And I think that's so interesting. I've got an ad running at the moment which talks about how COVID-19 could actually be the best thing for, you know, guys under 35. And I've received a lot of criticism on the ad, which is awesome. But I've also received a lot of acceptance, or people actually taking up the offer. But I do find it interesting that certain people are like, you know, you're taking advantage of this opportunity. And I'm like, no, I'm in my viewpoint, I'm like, well, this has, inside the ad it talks about, has this actually been the best thing that could happen to you? Have you secretly been wanting to change anyway? And this is almost an excuse or a reason, a justification to be like, hey, there could be something else out there for you. But I do find it interesting that, yeah, certain people, when do we know? So like, what's the difference between, you know, some of the triggers that we might see when we are living in someone else's values system potentially? So we have a cataclysmic event that comes from the outside, breaking up with your partner, or there's a death, or there's something, you get fired, or whatever it might be. Then on the other side, you've got, you know, it's not really lighting you up anymore. So there's some of kind of the triggers that someone could tell, hey, this isn't really for me. Are there any other, because you've obviously got opposing directions there. It's like, you know, this is a bad thing that happens before you see it. And this is like, well, I really love this direction. I want to move more into that. Are there any other triggers that we can pick up on? Because a lot of people will live in a contentment. They'll live in their comfort zone, and they'll sort of have a perception of living a Groundhog Day. And there's nothing really they can see as like, oh, like this is new, changing, exciting, growing, because they're not recognizing it. So what can we look at to find those markers and those triggers if nothing's like glaringly obvious to us?
So there's two things that I have noticed in human behavior. One is that an individual will use the language should. So a should is, because someone else tells you to go and do it, I should go and do it. Not because you actually choose from your own choice that you go and do that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, my parents told me I should do this, or I should get married by this particular age, or I should have a business, or I should be making money, whatever it is. And so the should itself, every time anytime I hear a client say that, I let them know, well, who specifically are you referring to when you say should? Because you want to first and foremost have a look at, is there one individual, mother, father, for example, that's the individual that you keep on saying, well, I should do, which means that you end up living the life that they want from you, but not the life that you would love. Mm-hmm. So that's one aspect. And then, so it's the first and foremost thing, people have to become aware of their language and whenever they hear themselves should. Mm-hmm. And then they go, well, do I really want to be doing this? And then it becomes a conscious choice. Like, do I really want to do this because I want to do it? Or am I doing it because someone else wants me to do it? And if you if it's the latter because someone else wants me to do it, you can or just ask yourself a really, really simple question, which is, how would it serve me? How would it serve them if I didn't do it? How would it benefit me if I didn't do it and did what I wanted to do? And that will help to kind of reprogram and shift the decision that you make. So that's one aspect, the shooting. The other is when we are indecisive with the decision we know we want to make, but we don't make it. So if we say, I really want to leave my job, I hate my job, I don't like my job, I don't want to be in it anymore, and you don't make a decision on that, or you don't take action on it, but you keep on saying it, so you keep on letting the outer world know, this is what I want, and this is what I want to be, I don't want to be doing something anymore, and you don't have, for whatever reason, the courage because it's too challenging, or there's too much unknown or uncertainty, whatever it is, that if you don't make that decision and your intuition is there going, you got to make that decision, you got to make that decision, come on, it's time to make that decision, and you don't listen to that, that is when you'll get a cataclysmic change to push you to do it, because underneath it you really want to. So your ad is actually perfect. It's actually amazing to start to open up people to a new perspective, to say that there are, like, is this moment in time one of the biggest blessings that you can ever go through? And so people want to be able to see that even if they've gone through something challenging of late, that underneath it there is a blessing that people can find. And maybe this has been the push that each individual has needed to get them doing and living a life they want to live rather than what others want them to live.
We talk a lot about, and that's awesome and very practical, which I like. When we talk about extreme, like, John DeMartini talks about, he talks a lot about, very, very, rapes and murders and, car accidents where, a lady has 4 kids and then she has 0 kids, but in the room, he's able to dissolve that. And to the outside world, they're like, as if not possible. If that ever happened, there's bad people, that person's a really bad person. Now, you may not be able to speak specifically about a person's case, but what are some of the extreme cases that you may have been through or seen happen, and even unbelievable to your own eyes? You're like, as a facilitator, or as, just seeing it, and you've just gone, holy hell, that's literally magical, how we could shift the perception in such a quick amount of time over a single event or series of events.
Over the 10 years I've seen and I've been witness to a lot of experiences that there is nothing that the mortal body can't go through that the immortal soul can't love. And so when we're able to see that everything has a stressing and a blessing, everything has meaning inside it, everything, there's a reason why everyone goes through what they go through, and it's about unpacking and finding out what that meaning is. So I mean, if I look at one case which is public, it's in the media, and you can Google her, is a lady named Judy, and she had experienced since the age of 6 that her father took her as his wife. And they moved out into a separate home, they lived together. She did all the things that you would do as a husband and wife, and he also did some pretty horrific things to her as well, which I won't go through details, but you can picture and imagine it. So she, when we did work together, and this wasn't just one session to be able to clear, this was hours and hours and hours and hours of work to do. But she, at the very end, was able to say that she was grateful for her opportunity that she had with her father, and that he was her greatest spiritual teacher. That she has gone on to do some phenomenal things with women empowerment. She's been awarded a medal by the Queen of England, because she's over there. That she has, and she's written books. She has spoken on stage about her story. She has gone on to do some phenomenal things as a result of her story. But she hasn't made her story define her in a way that it's negative and holds her back. She's made it her mission to share it, that you can transform your story, and it doesn't be this that holds that's the baggage that holds you back. You can liberate from it as well, just by asking some quality questions to be able to see the perfection in the experience of whatever you go through.
And did she have that story? Like, obviously she's written books and Queen by the Medal or Medal by the Queen rather. Was that previously, before the switch, you were able to work with her and see the blessing inside of that occurrence and those events? Was she starting to awaken up? It's like, okay, something was in there. Did she have women's empowerment as a part of her story, or was she totally trapped in a different world? And it was, yeah.
Well, I can't really say for sure, because I haven't had that level of conversation with her before. But what I can surmise is that she knew that she had a search. What I know that is that she had a search for wanting to shift things, even though she tried different courses and she'd learned from different people. So she was trying to make the shift. And then, but I think she was, I'm going to have it a guess, maybe she was late 30s, early 40s when she came and did the breakthrough experience for the first time, and we worked together for the first time. So from what I know, it was once she had liberated herself from that story is when she birthed her mission. So because what happens is not that you stop thinking about yourself, but because sometimes when we're in our own emotional pain, we're so clouded by thinking about other people that we don't have a mission that is beyond ourselves. The mission for ourselves is just trying to heal ourselves and just making ourselves okay. And so that moment that she finally felt free from her past, or more free from her past, that she was able to get a clearer idea of what she wanted to do to serve others.
The process of unfucking yourself, if you feel fucked up right now, what do you find is the best place to start? Someone's listening to this right now and goes, yeah, that's awesome, and this lady's doing really well, and that's great, but I'm so fucked up and no one even knows how deep in the hole I am. Where do I even start? What do I do? What's some steps I can take to start with?
Or maybe there's an individual going, well, I'm fucked up, but I'm not as fucked up as her, but I'm still fucked up. So, So, and it's a great question. Now, the thing is, everyone has moments, and everyone has stuff they don't like about themselves, and things that they've been holding themselves back in their past, or things they feel shame or guilt about, whatever it is. Like, people have stuff. What I know is, having worked in psychology for 11 years plus in different capacities for a lot longer, that what I notice is that people have more amount of pain, have the greatest amount to rise as well. Like, so it's just about, we learn about maths in school, we learn about, how to train your body, whatever it is, we learn how to do that. But there are not many courses out there that teach you about your mind and how to train your mind and train your brain to think differently. And so it's not that you're fucked up, it's just that you haven't yet learnt some quality questions to ask yourself to shift and to train your brain to operate differently. That's all. And it's about going, because your life and the way that you live your life, if you ask some really amazing questions to shift perspectives and to see greatness and to see beauty in your past, you'll be able to then if you free your past, you'll be able to create the future that you would love as well. So it's just about going, and first and foremost going and seeing as a basic level, going back, and whatever you don't like about what happened in the past, if you just ask this one question, which is, how did it serve me? What was the benefit and the blessing in whatever I've been challenged by in the past? How did it serve me? And it's not just about asking at one time. You want to change the tapestry of your brain and the way that your brain is viewing this. And it has to be asked 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 30, maybe even 100 times, depending on how fucked up things are in that event or that moment. and keep on asking until you start to see the other side. But this isn't to go to see it as positive psychology where you see all good, no bad. It's to be able to see that equal, that whole thinking of seeing there's a blessing in the crisis. That's all. Once you see that equally, you're then free from it. So as a starter, you can start asking that. But it's about seeing whatever, challenges you have experienced and see them as opportunities, not obstacles in your way. And when you do that, your whole life will completely change as a result. It's like trying to find whatever you think is fucked up. How can you make that your story to move forward?
Do you think that do you get to a point where, like we talk about, clearing your stuff, is there a point, a lot of people talk about, I'm just so clear and there's like, is there a point of no more stuff? We always find something to work on.
So what I love doing in terms of coaching, if I'm working one-on-one or coaching people in general, the thing I love to share with them is that there is the past we can work on and all the things you want to clear in the past. There's also where you want to rise to in the future as well. So there's the past and future that you can challenge yourself to push yourself to grow with. And so, yes, if you just thought about the past, there can be a point where you just go, yeah, I've cleared enough now. I don't really need to continue to clear them because the big things have been cleared. Great. And then it's like, well, where do you want to, grow yourself now? Like if you wanted to double your income, for example, right now, what feels uncomfortable about that? What do we need to shift in order to help you achieve that? If you want to have a greater following, then what do we have to do to make you vibe differently or get attracted to different people to be able to grow your following? Like what needs to shift inside of you? Because I really believe that we have the power to completely change our lives by changing our inner world, and our outer world will shift as a result. So I believe that there's so much more we could grow to in the future if we also focus on where we're going and pushing and growing ourselves in that way.
You've done a lot of work around shifting your own perceptions around what people think of you. And I remember asking about that particular topic, and you're like, Hayden, I had to do a fucking shit ton of work on it. Why do you think that people care so much what other people think? And then what were some of the tools that you used? Were you just asking those questions? Did you have a specific questions that you were asking around that topic?
Well, if I go back, maybe 15 years ago, I had social anxiety. So I would freak out at just anything to do with any kind of anything social, going out and going to a party or meeting someone. I would freeze. My fight, flight, freeze response would activate, and I would turn around and go back home again. So there was a lot of clearing. Really, there was a part, what I noticed when people, care about what other people's opinion is, part of it is the fear of rejection. It's one of the biggest things people have, is that fear. I don't want to be rejected. And so that partly has to do with, because we have this, we feel good when people accept us and we feel bad when people reject us. I mean, that's part of a primal makeup of us, that we want to belong, and we want to, from a safety and security perspective, we want to belong to a community. So the thing that will start to shift us is the moment that we experience rejection from someone, we just have to broaden our awareness to be able to start to see, where are we connected? If we're not connected to them, where are we connected? And then we still, because we are, if a friend rejects us, our family member, we're connected in there, or we're connected inside of a community, or we're connected in some way, or some other community. And the moment we see that, we don't perceive anything to be missing, and we don't perceive we've lost anything from that. So that's part of it. And then also looking at the moment someone rejects you, the moment you have to start to ask yourself, how did it serve me? So the same question we were looking at before, but how does it serve me that they rejected me? Why did I want them? And you take accountability for your part in that dynamic. Why did I want them to reject me in the first place? Maybe you didn't want to be friends with them. Maybe you didn't want to have a relationship with them anymore. You wanted out, whatever it is. And you actually wanted that separation. And the moment people realize that, they go, oh, I actually feel free from that individual rejecting me. So that's a big one for me. That was huge. And then, because it takes your power back, even though someone makes this decision, when you see your why you also made that decision as well, you keep and maintain your power in your own life. And someone else's decision doesn't have to change your own, because you see your unconscious motivation of why you wanted them out of your life in the first place.
Well, I remember you and I were working on a challenge, and you asked me that question, and I was like, I really wanted to help this guy. He was going to sign up to my program, and we went through the sales consult, and then it didn't, it was ultimately a rejection. And I was like, Tanya, I really want to help this person. And then you asked me the question, okay, so why did you choose for that not to go through? And I remember in my own thing, I was like, no, but I wanted it to go through. And you're like, no, but Hayden, answer the question. Why did you not want to go through? And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't think he would have done the work. And so subconsciously, I was co-creating this event, and I was like, shit. And it took a lot of that, I guess, pain or anguish, not even pain or anguish, but smaller versions of it, of just like, oh, actually, next, like, let's move on now and help someone who I do truly feel inspired to help, as opposed to feeling like I'm going to have to really hold this person accountable and push it up a hill and, really motivate them and hold their hand. And it was really powerful to go through that entire process just by asking a different question.
Yeah, because the moment you realize and you go, well, actually, you know what? Because the cost of actually, say signing up that particular individual might have been that you lost a lot of energy and you had to put a lot more time into this one individual rather than everyone else. And so then you go, actually, you know what? I feel free, the fact that that's shifted. So you can transform anything by just asking some quality questions to shift your perspective.
What do you think about energy? People, the world is energy, and you hear these like sayings, right? I want to hear your take, your educated expertise around the world is energy and these kind of words. Can you help, if we've got male listeners on the show who might be a little bit more disconnected from those typical sayings, can you share your opinion?
Well, if we break everything down to the smallest particle of the universe, it is sound and light. That is all the universe is made up of. It's just vibration, and it is light particles. So the table, it's just vibration of particles at a particular frequency. The same thing. So when we talk about energy, that's ultimately what we're doing, is we're just talking about the universe. Now, I know that every individual, regardless of whether they believe in energy or not, they have had experiences where they have walked into a business, let's say it's a restaurant, and they have gone like, oh, the vibe in here is shit, and you just like want to retract and you want to get out. And then there's other places in other restaurants or clubs, whatever it is that you've gone to, and it is just pumping with energy. And that you're actually tuning into the vibe and the energy that is in that particular business. And so we as individuals also have the same thing. So there's some individuals that you can spend time with, and for whatever reason in their particular moment at that particular time, their vibe is really down, and that you can't help, because we have mirror neurons inside of our brains. So whatever we see in others, we're also experiencing it in ourselves. And so we actually might find that we're actually feeling down as well. Like, you might have noticed that if you went into Coles or Woolworths a few months ago, that you might have noticed that you did panic buying. You went in, that you thought you were fine before you went into the supermarket. Then you went in and you were like panicked, and you started like, oh my God, I just got to buy everything. I don't even need this, and I'm going to buy it anyway, because you're picking up on the vibes of what others are doing. It's like it's just an energetic kind of dynamic that people are picking up on. And so we individually have vibes. As a collective group, we have a vibe and we have energy. There's nothing right or wrong with energy. It just is energy. It just means, though, that if you have, for example, a business, and that you aren't feeling great about your business, and you aren't loving your business, and you don't have the vibe around your business, it's going to be really hard to then attract others into that business, and for them to get, that vibe and I want to be there. if you don't have it yourself. So vibes make a difference. Whether you believe it or not, they make a big difference. The same goes inside of a relationship. If you feel low self-worth and you don't feel good about yourself, and that then reflects on the outer world, and the vibe you give off is like, stay away from me, or I don't want you near me, and you've got that pushing away energy, then it's going to be much harder for another individual then to come and want to be in your space and want to date and do all that, because the vibe is a pushing away rather than coming close.
When we talk about when we talk about inspiration and a feeling of like, I really want to do this is really great, and you're feeling lit up, let's just take business example, you're feeling really lit up and then it's great. Then how can one differentiate between, say, a feeling of inspiration and a feeling of excitement? I'm really excited to do this. Oh, this is a great new direction and I'm pumped to go and do it. And you have those moments of almost fleeting excitement where you're just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then, you know, you got the difference between motivation and inspiration, right? So like a week after, you're like, I'm actually not feeling it. And then 2 weeks after, you're like, oh yeah, like that was not really feeling it at all. But on day one, you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to run the business. I'm going to go for the run or whatever. Like, you've got this huge excitement. How can we differentiate between those two?
So excitement is something that has a quick, fast, uphill trajectory, and you kind of like all this energy, really want to do it. You have no idea the blind side. There's no plan involved. You don't really know. And then you sizzle out. It kind of just flattens. And then you're not prepared to keep on going through and continuing with it past the time it starts to fizzle down. So it's the full dopamine rush of feeling good and you want to do this. And then as soon as it becomes challenging, you're like, no, I'm out of here. I don't really want to do it. The difference between something that's fulfilling and inspiring is that it has more of an upward journey rather than a sudden drop. So you feel the energy inside, and that it continues to burn long after you stop doing it. You're like, oh my God, I've still got to go and do it. I still have this yearning inside of me that I want to go and do it. You're also then, anytime that something faces you, that's a challenge, you'll want to go and do it. So for example, my first experience of something challenging was when I loved this work and I really wanted to help and serve individuals with it. And I had the opportunity to speak on stage, and I was like, yep, done, doing it. So I being an individual who shied away from any public thing, I was prepared to go and do it. I also, when I first started this journey, I had a fear of flying. And I was willing to go and embrace the fear of flying and be sometimes petrified and work through it, that I was willing to keep on doing that, sometimes on a monthly, a few times a month basis, to be able to go and do what I love. And so we're willing to challenge ourselves and do those things even in what would normally be really difficult. So you're willing to push yourself through it. So we can sometimes do the excitement because we're so distracted by the outer world, and we're a bit like a shiny object syndrome. Oh my God, that's so amazing. And then as soon as that the shine is wiped off that one, you're like on to the next shiny thing. And then you go and try that for a little while. And so that's more of like an outward directed driven of trying to seek a pleasure, avoid a pain, whereas an inspiration is coming and birthing from inside and willing to embrace pleasure and pain in the pursuit of it.
What is when we talk about, let's go back to the energy, because that was interesting in the fact of, let's talk about money energy, money resonance. People want more money. Like, what is the vibe? What is the money situation? Because I know you've done a lot of work around legitimate financial independence and what that actually looks like, and how do you set up and structure your finances to do it, rather than opposed to, let's have an abundant mindset and hope for the best. So let's talk about money resonance and how that actually plays into what people could actually be doing with that. Is there such a thing as increasing your money resonance? Is that just asking, again, just quality questions? Like, can we go into that?
Yeah, of course. So there's a few aspects with money and the vibe around money. Part of it is, what is your vibe around money itself? I mean, if you were to look at and ask, I've asked lots of individuals, what's your take on and your perception of Gina Reinhardt? What's your perception of Warren Buffett? What's your perception of whoever else that is extremely wealthy, right? Or just wealthy in general? And sometimes people are like, oh, they're greedy, they or stingy, they want money for themselves, selfish, or whatever it is. Like, there's all these labels around individuals, or they just think about money itself, and the perception they have around money is that it's the root of all evil. It's you being narcissistic if you're focused on money, those kind of labels. And so if we talk about the vibe, if people don't really have a vibe around money, sometimes this can be seen in, say, the hippie culture. They're like, oh no, I wouldn't want materialistic things that have anything to do with money, because that challenges my spirituality path. And so there's these perceptions that create these vibes around money. So if you have those things, it's then much harder to be able to create any level or a level of wealth, or a growing in your wealth, if you don't have the setup for wanting it. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be like that. So it really is about going and seeing, because the truth is, if everyone's going to be really honest, that everyone's greedy and they're selfless at times. If everyone's really honest with themselves, they are stingy and they are, free flowing with their money at times. So we have all of those. It's just being able to see that if we already have all those things, there's nothing to fear if we were to have more money, because we are those things now anyway. So it's really about helping people, first and foremost, to change their vibe around money. Like, you've got to love it, because all it is it's just expression of you offering a service to the world, and you get paid for it. So it's just a form of service that you're offering. That's all. So then the other component is the how do you feel about yourself? Because from a human behavioral perspective, if you don't feel good about yourself, if there's things in your past that you have shame or guilt about, or things that you go, oh my God, I would not want anyone to know about, then you're going to feel bad. And then anytime you have money, this may be one aspect how you do it. Not everyone does it, but some people do it. They have money, they end up giving it away. So they end up spending it on pleasurable things, whatever is going to make them feel good, so that covers up for their pain and their challenge that they're experiencing. They feel good, or they give it away because it makes them feel good, because it's trying to compensate for guilt that they feel that they give their money away. And so if the shift doesn't happen from the inside to change how you feel about yourself from the inside, that see you are worthy to attract money and hold on to it and keep it, then it'll just keep on flowing out through your fingertips. So there has to be an element of deserve and worthiness, and also appreciating money in itself. But I really believe that your money and your income and your net worth is a result of the people that you are serving and the lives that you are changing as a result of what you do. So money is not bad. Money's not good either. It just is.
Why do you think that money is such a huge, that must be that, but money, religion, and I guess politics would be like the, three of the biggest topics that people talk about, or even, love and sex and marriage and all that kind of stuff. But money is like a huge one. Why do you think it's such a hot topic? Why do you think people get so heated over it? I mean, it does have powerful connotations, and if you've got money, you can be more desirable and these kind of things, and you have ultimately more power to do the things you want to do. Freedom.
Well, it's a great question. I wouldn't want to blame any one reason why or put it in reason why, but I know that religion has somewhat had a part to do with our perceptions around money. It's been better, more blessed to give than it is to receive, which means that the Catholic Church, for example, is taking money and receiving, even though it's more blessed to give than receive, they're receiving. So there's things like that. And we have you know, in our society in Australia, for example, we have had an influence on Christianity and religion. And I'm not doubting, I'm undermining what they do and their impact that they've made. I'm just using it as an example of maybe one thing that has set us up for having more shame around finances, for example. We also in Australia have this thing called the tall poppy syndrome. And it's that anytime anyone is doing better than someone else, we actually cut them down. That actually came back from when we as convicts came to Australia for the first time. We were chained together. There was, you know, 8 to 10 people chained together in packs. And anytime one went to escape, they were all punished. So then this idea of then the one person stands up and is better, thinking they're better than the others, we cut them down. So it's actually been this thing that's engraved in our society from the time we settled here. So I can see maybe that's to agree with why we have shame if people talk about finances or become better at finances, because it's definitely not someone people put their hand up and tell them this is how much I earn or this is how much my net worth is. People don't normally talk about that. So, but
people
that doesn't
really
mean that we can't change. We can't change the conversation.
100%. But yeah, that's probably one of the most private things. I mean, and you kind of, it's almost like, you know, even when we talk about religion or what sex you prefer or, you know, what party you support in politics, most people, I mean, there's probably like, you know, there's a certain percentage that are completely private and just don't want to tell anyone for whatever reason. But my experience has been, yeah, like the topics around money, like you really don't talk about how much net wealth you have unless it's with your really close, intimate partner. And I even know partnerships that don't share those details.
I think though, like if we really have a look at though and say politics and even our sexual preferences, they used to be taboo, but over the years it's okay now to share what political party do you support. You know, it's that it's somewhat more. It's definitely more acceptable in today's day and age to share whether you're, you know, whatever sexual preference you have. It's more acceptable. In comparison to what it was a number of years ago. So perhaps as we change and we evolve, then we may get to a point where talking about your finances can be more acceptable than what it has been in the past.
COVID-19, and let's hope so. Let's continue the conversation, because I think it's having an IQ or FIQ, the financial intelligence quotient, is important, and having those conversations is beneficial rather than making
100%, because you want to know, like you want to have a focus on it, because you know, the government, unless you want to have a government support you for your finances, you want to be able to grow and see your wealth grow and to be able to be independent with your finances. So I think it's a really important topic to be talking about.
What did you used to be like with money back in the day? What was your connotations, your stories, your baggage?
In my when I was studying at uni, I did have a poor uni mentality that when you're studying, you had to be poor. So that was definitely one of those. I also had a ceiling. So I also noticed that, you know, before I learned any of the power of changing your inner world to change your outer world, before I knew that, I noticed there was a ceiling of savings that I could get to every single year. There was just this point, and it would just stick, and then it would disappear again. And each time I couldn't even get $1 or a cent over that amount. It was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It was great. And then also, I mean, I can look back. I spent money on my traveling and life experiences, basically, of kind of, you know, experiencing life, which has made what I do, you know, the work I do, much more interesting, because I've had a lot of life experiences, which has helped me understand my clients more. So I'm definitely grateful for what I've invested in. And sometimes I contemplate and think maybe I could have saved somewhat more. But, you know, I think we all think that sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then, so let's talk about that topic in particular around, you know, having the ceiling, because we're on a training that you're hosting the other night, and you were talking about how many people here have ceilings. And literally almost every single person was like, yes, I get to that number. How do we burst through the ceiling? How do you create a new ceiling or to break the ceiling apart?
So one of the questions I love to ask is, if you were to double, if you have a savings, and whatever that savings amount, everyone's going to be different, but if you were to double that savings amount, what happens? So for some individuals, they go, oh my gosh, that means I have to work more. That means I have to put more hours into my business, which would take me away from my relationship. Or some people go, oh, it feels so uncomfortable. Or someone else might go, that'd be amazing. I'll be able to spend all my money. I'll be able to spend it on X, Y, Z, which is really the pleasure of saving the money to spend it, which isn't really saving. And so it's just about asking some questions to be able to shift. Well, first of all, awaken to see, well, why is it uncomfortable to go above that ceiling, and then clear the fear or clear whatever is going on, so that you can then set a strategy and plan to get above that. And then make a new ceiling. Everyone has a ceiling, no matter what they're at. There'll be a new ceiling that they're getting to. They'll just be a bigger one than they had before.
Just add a zero to the net wealth.
Yeah, exactly. But you're just then clearing the next level up.
COVID-19 hit. You pivoted. Maximum growth is the main focus that you have now. What was it inside of you? And you're just like, because you've been undercover and now you're fucking blooming and shining and kicking ass and delivering maximum levels of service, which is interesting because it's all maximum growth. How are you finding the new public front of the business, as opposed to being, behind the scenes and kicking ass and helping people? Now you're in the limelight. Now you're in the spotlight. Like, what's that brought up for you as you've now starting to appear on more podcasts, and you've been doing all this stuff for the last 11, 12 plus years. Now it's like, okay, now I'm going to be the person on the front line for my business. What's that been like for you? What's that brought up for you?
Well, I've spoken on stage a lot for Dr. Demartini and different companies in different ways, and so I have had that exposure, but not ever from my own stuff. And so it's been amazing. It's actually like liberating in a way. Like I was reflecting on it recently and realized that, not to say that you couldn't do this as a journey for some individuals, but for me, I have noticed that I now get to go public after having, over a decade of experience, and I get to go and help people with that level of expertise and experience to be able to help people shift. And so I feel like now is like the perfect time. Like I feel like it couldn't have come at a better time to be able to pivot and to be able to start sharing it. I've had stuff come up because, like every business, you've got new expansions and, new levels of growth and hiring different individuals and things like that. There's just a new level of expansion. But I feel ready. Like it feels like it's the perfect time to, and the world also needs it as well. Like COVID-19, people have really been struggling, like it's just been like everything that people had thought about, all the things that they love doing, from socializing, from going to the gym, and that would make them feel good about their body and themselves, to be able to have social connections, to go to, work or whatever else it was, to see their family. There is so much that got stripped down to people just being like just by themselves, or just in the individuals that they're living with at that time. And that's all they had. A lot of people went through identity crises. Like, who am I when I don't have all this stuff around me? Like, who am I? Maybe a lot of people watch Netflix and they just submerge themselves in TV and watching stuff because it was like, I don't have anything else to do with they're trying to just pass time or whatever it was. And so a lot of people had some tough mental challenges that they had to go through. So now is like the perfect time to teach people about their mindset and how to master their life.
It's a pretty confronting conversation to have with yourself when you are almost, or the reality is exposed to yourself. And it's like, and you start having that question like, oh shit, like who am I? Or without being able to go to the gym, or without this body that I've spent time building, and now I can't go and do, 150 kilo squat on a Tuesday afternoon, or I can't do these particular things, or go traveling, or have my experiences in Bali or Thailand or Las Vegas or wherever, because that's who I am. That's part of who I am. And then it's like, I can't do that anymore. And then you realize, oh shit, like, who am I? What am I about? What are some of the inner, like, who is the person behind these activities? And we find a lot of people are in do mode. I know it's going to sound cliche, but like the do and the being and the having, a lot of people are doing, but then there's also a lot of like understanding that you are a being behind that. What happens if you are exposed and you're just like, fuck, who am I?
Well, one of the
Go see Tanya.
Thank you. There's 4 cardinal questions that man has asked since the dawn of time, and that is, why am I here? Where am I going? Where have I been? And who am I? We have wanted to know who we are for eternity. And so, and it's a really complex question. It's not something like it has a one word answer or sentence answer. And it is also, every time we have a change in our life, or we change a relationship, or we change a career, or we get a new circle of friends, or whatever that is, we will be asking, who am I now? So every change can be a shift into wanting to discover who we are. So I don't know if there's a tangible, concrete answer that an individual is going to have, and it's just a once-off thing. It's like an ever-evolving answer to the same question. So, but I believe it's one of the most important questions, is because, if you want to be asking, like, who am I when I'm not, training? Who am I when I'm not with my family? Who am I when I'm not? Because then you strip the surface of all the things that you think you shoulds and you have to's, and you've got to do these things, and you really get down to the core of what's really truly important to you, and who are you really. I think it's a wise investment of someone's time to question who they are.
And more, in your experience, does that traditionally show up as someone's highest value at the time?
Yeah, ultimately everyone has one thing that they love, and it's just ingrained inside of them. Like I'm a learner. I love learning. I love studying. I love learning about people more so. I mean, I love learning about lots of things, but I love, well, how does that relate to an individual? How does that relate to their psychology? And I love learning in that aspect on human behavior. And so that's the thing that if I keep on coming back to it, it's like, who am I? That's who I am. It's like in every cell of my being. And it's what I love. It's what I love the most.
Awesome. When we talk about meaning, we talk about meaning and gathering new meaning and assigning a meaning to an event. And basically we're looking at how did this actually serve me? So in a way, we're manufacturing a meaning and giving a meaning onto an event. This, at some point, can you find that that's a band-aid fix, or that's almost trying to create something that wasn't there, but you're tweaking the mind to do it? Are you simply, is that the purpose of it? Then you're doing that to then just enough for you to start taking forward momentum, forward action, rather than spending your entire life worrying or judging yourself about the event?
I mean, if you didn't find any meaning in the events, then you would just go, okay, it was just a random thing that happened to me, and I had no conscious control, or it was just an event. So that means that if you spend your entire life doing that, what's the point of life? What's the point if we just go through random experiences that are happening and there's no rhyme or reason to them? I mean, we could do that, and some people do that, and that's okay for them. I know that when we extract the meaning out of it, and we find why, with a purpose behind whatever it is that we go through, it makes our life so much more richer. It just adds a whole nother layer and level to our life, that we're here for a purpose, and we're here to do something more than just pay our bills and go to work and come home and, watch TV or whatever it is. We're here to do something more than that. And everyone has something greater inside of themselves to deliver. And so I know that the more meaning we can find in that, the more we can understand who we are, why we're here, where we're going, where we've been.
Isn't that really interesting though? Because I've just had a thought around, it doesn't really fucking matter what what it means to anyone else. All you need to do is just know that it has a meaning, an internal meaning for you, to be like, okay, that's why that event happened. If I told someone else, I'd be like, yeah, okay, well, that doesn't really make sense. But to me, if I'm like, no, that's why that happened, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have been here. And if I wasn't there, I wouldn't be here. But it's just the internal self meaning.
Yeah, it's the internal, like, I know that I would never have found my purpose and my path and the work that I teach people had my boyfriend not died. Like, it wouldn't have been the cataclysmic change that pushed me into that direction. I get goosebumps. I get tears when I think about that moment. Because it means a lot for me. And so that means I'm not held back by baggage of my past, and it's not weighing me down, that I am lifted and freed from that, and physiologically feel free from that as well. So yeah, it doesn't matter what other people think. It goes back to that. It's a matter of what you're perceiving and how you see it.
But when you went through that on stage with Dr. Demartini, and you cleared it, and that allowed you to be free of the baggage of this was a bad event, and you felt love for what had occurred, at that same moment, or in a 10 minutes or an hour or 2 hours later, was that when it became clear, hey, this is what I want to do, this is part of the purpose, is I want to start, well, my current purpose right now in this element is, man, I'd love to be able to take other people through this?
Well, it wasn't straight away, because I remember coming home and realizing, well, first and foremost, if I want to go and help shift someone else's world, I have to move myself. If I want to move someone else, first move yourself. So I had to, and I spent a dedicated year applying the work as much as possible on myself. And I did a lot of work, particularly that first year, because I didn't want to say to someone that you are worthy of having wealth if I also didn't shift that and start to see evidence of that. I wanted to know and help someone to be able to transform whatever challenges they've been through in the past, because I knew that I've been able to do the same thing for myself, and that I know that it can work for them. And so I knew that I wanted to come from that space. So I first of all had to go through that journey. Like, does this work? Does actually asking a question to help shift your perspective, and then does it not come back again in later stage? Do you not get triggered and then it's there again? So I wanted to know that and see the evidence. And so once I could believe it and know it inside of myself, that was when I just felt like my cup was full, and I had to then just let and help others as a result of that. Amazing.
Tanya Cross, thank you for your time and energy and vibrations here on the podcast. Where can people reach you? What should they do to see your magic?
They can reach me on my website, which is tanyacross.com.au. And you can also check out, I have some online group coaching if you're interested. So you can just scroll down, and it's the starter membership to find out more.
You should definitely do that, because it's super high value and very fun for everyone involved. Great reviews. Cool.
Thank you,
Hayden. Thanks, Tanya.